President Traoré freezes mid-sentence when the orphan boy makes a gesture only his missing brother would know. 15 years of searching culminates in this single electric moment of recognition. DNA tests are ordered, but the president's heart thunders with certainty. His promise to their dying mother might finally be fulfilled. The nation watches breathlessly as a family torn apart by civil war stands on the precipice of miraculous reunion. When two brothers' eyes meet across a chasm of time, can the boy raised as Emmanuel reclaim his identity as Michel? Subscribe now to witness a brotherhood reborn from the ashes of conflict, where destiny writes the most powerful comeback story yet. The morning sun casts long shadows across the presidential convoy as it winds through the dusty streets of Ouagadougou. President Ibrahim Traoré stares through tinted windows, his face a mask of practiced composure despite the weight he carries. This visit to St. Matthew's Children's Home was scheduled months ago, intended as a routine presidential appearance. The orphanage represents one of many initiatives his administration has championed to address the aftermath of regional conflicts. For Ibrahim, these projects have always carried a personal significance that few in his cabinet fully understand. The convoy slows as they approach the modest compound where 37 children await their distinguished visitor. "The orphanage needs the support, Mr. President," his aide explains while organizing the day's briefing documents. The facility has struggled with limited resources despite government funding increases implemented last year. Your presence there will boost morale and draw attention to their critical needs for the coming fiscal cycle. Ibrahim nods mechanically, mentally categorizing this as one of dozens of similar appearances scheduled this month. Yet something feels different today, a subtle tension between his shoulder blades that he can't quite identify. Perhaps it's just the accumulated fatigue of leadership in a nation still healing from decades of instability. Outside the window, Burkina Faso unfolds in all its contradictions. New construction rising beside crumbling infrastructure. Children in freshly pressed school uniforms walk past others selling trinkets to tourists in the morning heat. Progress and struggle coexist here, a visual reminder of how far they've come and how far they still must go. Ibrahim's thoughts drift momentarily to his own childhood, to faces he hasn't seen in years, to questions never answered. 15 years have passed since the night his family was torn apart during the civil unrest that changed everything. The search for his younger brother, Michel, has continued in the background of his meteoric rise to power. Ibrahim has always carried the weight of his family's fractured past quietly, a private burden beneath his public persona. As the youngest president in the nation's history, he's learned to compartmentalize personal pain from professional duties. His resilience in the face of tragedy became the foundation upon which he built his political career and reputation. Few know that every policy addressing displaced children contains his desperate hope of finding one specific child. Every database created, every international agreement on missing persons, all partially motivated by personal loss. This orphanage visit, like dozens before it, carries that whispered question: could Michel somehow be here? 5 minutes, sir, announces the driver, breaking through Ibrahim's thoughts as the vehicle approaches iron gates. Security personnel communicate through earpieces, confirming the perimeter is secure for the presidential arrival. Ibrahim straightens his tie and reviews the orphanage director's name one final time. Sister Marguerite Caboret. An unusual feeling settles in his chest. A premonition, perhaps, or simply anxiety from too little sleep. He dismisses it as the vehicle comes to a stop and his security detail moves into position around him. The doors of St. Matthew's Children's Home open wide to receive their distinguished visitor, unaware of destiny's approach. President Ibrahim Traoré emerged from humble beginnings to lead his nation through its most challenging period of transition. At 42, his serious demeanor and measured speech have earned him respect across regional and political divides. Born into a teacher's family in a small village near the Mali border, his childhood was defined by academic excellence. His path to leadership was unconventional, from brilliant student to military service, then a rapid political ascent. What distinguished him from peers was not ambition alone, but an innate ability to unite diverse factions. Ibrahim's reputation for integrity made him a rare figure of consensus in a landscape fractured by division. Those closest to Ibrahim know that beneath his composed exterior lies a man deeply shaped by personal tragedy. The disappearance of his younger brother Michel during a period of civil unrest left wounds that never truly healed. They were separated during evacuation from their village when rebel forces approached. Ibrahim was 17, Michel only 5. In the chaos of that night, thousands were displaced, hundreds went missing, and most families were eventually reunited. But despite years of searching, utilizing every resource and connection, Michel's fate remained an unanswered question. Ibrahim channeled this pain into purpose, establishing programs for displaced children and families throughout the country. Ibrahim's leadership style reflects his personal philosophy of resilience combined with compassionate pragmatism. "We must be the stability our people need," he often tells his cabinet during their weekly strategic sessions, especially for those who cannot protect themselves. The children, the elderly, the displaced and vulnerable. His policies on child welfare and education have become cornerstones of his administration's reform agenda. Ministers who disagree with him on economic matters rarely challenge his initiatives for orphan children. Few understand these aren't merely political positions, but extensions of a brother's unfulfilled promise to protect. Despite his position of power, Ibrahim maintains a genuine connection with ordinary citizens that transcends formality. He listens more than he speaks, remembers names and faces with remarkable accuracy across countless public events. When visiting communities affected by hardship, he sits on the ground with elders, respecting traditional protocols. He frequently adjusts policies based on direct feedback from citizens, prioritizing practical impact over theoretical ideals. This authenticity has earned him loyalty that transcends political allegiance, even among former opponents. "He speaks to us, not at us," a village elder once commented, capturing the essence of Ibrahim's approach. When facing obstacles, Ibrahim displays a characteristic patience, analyzing situations thoroughly before acting decisively. He approaches national challenges with the same methodical consideration he's applied to his brother's disappearance. Advisors sometimes find his deliberate pace frustrating when immediate action seems politically advantageous. Yet his carefully considered decisions typically reveal foresight that validates the measured approach. Ibrahim believes that rushing to judgment creates more problems than it solves, both in policy and personal matters. This patience has served him well through crises, though the search for his brother tests its limits. What distinguishes President Traoré from other leaders is his refusal to become isolated by the trappings of his office. Where predecessors retreated behind palace walls, Ibrahim insists on regular unscripted interactions with citizens. He believes leadership disconnected from people's daily realities becomes meaningless, self-serving, and eventually corrupt. His security detail has learned to adapt to his impromptu stops at markets, schools, and community centers. These moments of genuine connection provide insights no ministerial report could capture and keep him grounded. This orphanage visit, while officially a routine engagement, reflects his genuine commitment to vulnerable populations. Ibrahim carries with him always a small photograph, worn at the edges from years of handling and quiet contemplation. In it, two brothers stand before their childhood home, Ibrahim tall and serious, little Michel grinning widely. The image represents both his greatest failure and his most powerful motivation to build a better country. On difficult days when compromise seems impossible and progress stalls, he looks at this reminder of purpose. The lost brother became symbolic of all the nation's children who deserve security, opportunity, and belonging. Ibrahim tucked this photo into his breast pocket this morning, as he does before every orphanage visit, a ritual of remembrance. The orphanage director greets the presidential party with nervous enthusiasm in the facility's modest entrance hall. Sister Marguerite smooths her traditional dress repeatedly, clearly overwhelmed by the significance of this visit. "We're deeply honored by your presence, Mr. President," she says, her voice slightly tremulous with emotion. "The children have prepared a small performance to welcome you. They've been practicing for weeks." Ibrahim smiles graciously, following the director through corridors where excited whispers trail in their wake. Children peek around doorframes before being gently ushered back by staff members equally eager to glimpse their leader. They enter a modest assembly hall where 30 children stand in neat formation, their uniforms freshly pressed. Handmade decorations adorn the walls, paper flags and welcome banners created with painstaking care. A boy at the front, perhaps 14 years old, steps forward with remarkable confidence as they enter. Something in his posture, in the set of his jaw, causes Ibrahim to pause mid-stride, recognition stirring. The presidential security detail tenses slightly at this unexpected hesitation, scanning for potential threats. But the threat is to Ibrahim's emotional equilibrium as forgotten memories suddenly struggle to surface. The boy begins to speak, welcoming the president with carefully rehearsed words that show impressive eloquence. "We are honored to welcome you to St. Matthew's home, where you will find determined minds and grateful hearts." But it's not his speech that captures Ibrahim's complete attention. It's the distinctive gestures accompanying it. The way he emphasizes points with his left hand, fingers splayed in a particular pattern unlike typical gesturing. It's a mannerism so achingly familiar that the president feels the ground shift beneath him momentarily. The same gesture Michel would make when excited about something important, a family trait inherited from their father. Ibrahim struggles to maintain his composure as the ceremony continues, his mind racing through impossible calculations. He mentally counts years, reconstructs timelines, considers the mathematics of age and physical development. The resemblance is undeniable. The same high forehead, the distinctive set of the mouth, the familiar stance. The boy would be exactly Michel's age now, his features matured but still carrying echoes of the 5-year-old's face. Ibrahim feels his heart hammering against his ribs as he forces himself to breathe normally through the ceremony. Could coincidence create such perfect alignment? Or is his mind manufacturing similarities out of desperate hope? When the children's choir begins to sing, the boy joins in with a voice that carries a uniquely familiar timbre. It's the same distinctive quality that Ibrahim remembers from childhood mornings when Michel would sing while dressing. Their mother always said it was a gift from their grandfather. This particular resonance, unlike anyone else's. Ibrahim feels his chief of staff watching him with concern, noticing the unusual intensity of his focus. The performance becomes background noise as the president's attention remains fixed on this single child. Years of practiced composure prevent his emotions from showing, but internally, every certainty has been shaken. The president's security detail notices the change in his demeanor, the fixed attention on one particular child. His expression remains diplomatically pleasant, but those who know him well recognize the slight tension in his jaw. His chief of staff leans in discreetly. "Is everything all right, Mr. President?" Concerned by this unusual behavior. Ibrahim barely registers the question, nodding automatically while maintaining visual contact with the boy. The rational part of his brain warns against premature conclusions, while another part already knows the truth. After 15 years of searching, of following false leads and suffering disappointments, could the search be over? As the performance concludes, The children line up to personally greet their distinguished visitor as planned. Ibrahim moves through the line mechanically, shaking small hands and exchanging brief words with each child. His security team exchanges concerned glances, sensing the president's distraction, though his smile remains fixed. When the boy approaches, Ibrahim feels time slow to an excruciating pace, each second stretching impossibly. Emmanuel, Mr. President. The boy introduces himself with a dignity beyond his years, extending his hand. The name is different, but when their hands touch, Ibrahim feels an electric jolt of absolute recognition. "What is that boy's name again?" Ibrahim asks the director during a brief pause in the program, his voice carefully controlled. They stand at the refreshment table while the children prepare for the next portion of their welcome ceremony. Sister Marguerite seems surprised by the specific interest, but quickly references her attendance clipboard. "Emmanuel, sir, one of our brightest students. He's been with us for 7 years now." The timeline aligns perfectly with the chaos that tore through their village with that desperate night. "What do you know about his background?" Ibrahim continues, maintaining casual interest in his tone. "He came to us after being found alone near the eastern border during the displacement crisis," Sister Marguerite explains. "A Red Cross worker brought him here when no immediate family could be located in the refugee camps." She checks her records again, providing details that align precisely with what Ibrahim already knows. He had no identification, no family connections that could be traced through our normal channels. Ibrahim feels simultaneous surges of hope and anger at how close Michel had been all along. He's adapted remarkably well considering the circumstances, one of our most dedicated students. Ibrahim fights to maintain presidential decorum while his mind races through possibilities and implications. Could it truly be Michel, the little brother he promised their mother he would protect at all costs? The brother whose disappearance has haunted every quiet moment since that chaotic night 15 years ago? The resemblance is striking. The gestures, the voice, the timeline. Yet he fears the power of wishful thinking. How many times has he thought he found promising leads, only to have hope crushed by reality? Yet something feels fundamentally different now. A certainty that transcends logic or reasonable explanation. "I'd like to speak with him privately after the ceremony," Ibrahim says, a request that clearly puzzles his staff. His chief of staff, Adama, looks concerned at this deviation from the carefully planned schedule. "Sir, we have the agricultural ministry meeting in 90 minutes, he reminds the president discreetly. Such impromptu changes are rare, the logistics of presidential security making spontaneous decisions complicated. Yet something in Ibrahim's tone brooks no argument, a quiet authority that rarely surfaces so directly. After a moment's hesitation, Adama nods. "I'll arrange it and adjust the schedule accordingly." The performance concludes with the children presenting handmade gifts to their distinguished visitor as planned. Each child approaches with nervous reverence, presenting crafts they've worked on for weeks in anticipation. Ibrahim accepts each with genuine appreciation, but his attention remains fixed on one child's approach. When Emmanuel steps forward with his offering, a simple carved wooden box, their hands briefly touch. Ibrahim feels that same electric jolt of recognition, an undeniable connection that transcends rational explanation. The boy looks up, momentarily confused by the intensity in the president's eyes, before stepping back. "You've done excellent work here," Ibrahim tells the orphanage staff gathered for the closing remarks portion. His training allows him to continue his official duties, while part of his mind remains fixed elsewhere. "These children represent our nation's future and deserve every opportunity we can provide them." The staff beam with pride at this presidential recognition of their difficult and often underappreciated work. All the while, Ibrahim's eyes keep returning to Emmanuel, searching for additional confirmation of his suspicions. The boy notices this attention, his expression reflecting curiosity about this unusual presidential interest. Sister Marguerite seems perplexed when Ibrahim's chief of staff requests a private room for a special meeting. The president wishes to speak with Emmanuel Kone alone for a few minutes, Adama explains carefully. Her expression shows concern. Such a request is unprecedented and outside normal security protocols. Has Emmanuel done something wrong? She asks quietly, protective instinct evident in her posture. Quite the opposite, Adama assures her, though he himself doesn't understand the president's unusual request. It's a personal matter of great importance to the president, nothing to cause concern. In a small office bordering the orphanage courtyard, Emmanuel sits with perfect posture, clearly nervous yet composed. The borrowed administrative space contains little beyond a desk, 2 chairs, and educational certificates on walls. Ibrahim dismisses his security detail, asking for 5 minutes alone, a request so unprecedented that bodyguards hesitate. His chief of staff studies him with obvious concern before reluctantly stepping outside with the security team. The door closes, leaving president and orphan alone in a silence heavy with questions and possibilities. Emmanuel watches cautiously, intelligent eyes evaluating this unusual situation with remarkable maturity. Emmanuel, I hope I haven't made you uncomfortable by asking to speak with you like this. Ibrahim begins carefully. The formal presidential tone falters slightly, revealing the emotional human beneath the official exterior. No, Mr. President, the boy responds respectfully, though his curiosity is evident in his attentive posture. I just wasn't expecting special attention, he adds with surprising directness, especially from you. Ibrahim studies the boy's features intently, cataloging each familiar detail with growing certainty. The shape of his eyebrows, the particular curve of his ears, genetic echoes too precise to be coincidence. Ibrahim carefully removes a worn photograph from his wallet, one of the few personal items he carries always. His hands, normally steady in even the most pressured diplomatic negotiations, tremble slightly with emotion. In the photograph, 2 young boys stand before a modest home, arms around each other's shoulders in easy affection. The youngest makes that distinctive gesture with his left hand, the same one Emmanuel used during his speech. Does this picture mean anything to you? Ibrahim asks, his voice nearly breaking as he passes it across. The official presidential demeanor slips further, revealing the brother who has searched for 15 years. Emmanuel takes the photograph, studying it with growing confusion that slowly transforms into something deeper. He traces the outlines of the figures with his finger, an unconscious gesture of familiarity or recognition. I have dreams sometimes, he says hesitantly, his voice dropping to just above a whisper. About a house that looks like this one, and a brother who called me. He pauses, uncertain whether to continue. Something flickers across his face, not quite memory, but the shadow of memory, fragments trying to connect. The confident student who greeted the president earlier now appears vulnerable, caught between past and present. Michel, Ibrahim offers, the name hanging in the air between them like a bridge across 15 years of separation. The boy's eyes widen, recognition flickering across his face at a name he hasn't heard spoken in years. A name that resonates in some deep, preserved part of his memory, despite the trauma that buried it. I was called that, Emmanuel whispers, meeting Ibrahim's gaze with new understanding dawning in his expression. Before the loud night, before the running. His words emerge haltingly, as if excavating buried memories. Before I was alone. These 3 simple statements confirm what Ibrahim's heart already knows, against impossible odds. Ibrahim's carefully maintained composure finally breaks, tears forming in eyes that have remained dry through national crises. Michel, he says again, the name both a question and an answer, a prayer finally receiving response. My name is Emmanuel now, the boy corrects gently, though without rejection of the connection forming between them. They gave me that name at the refugee camp because I couldn't remember. His voice trails off momentarily. but I remember pieces sometimes. A house, a mother singing, a brother who promised to always find me. With these words, the barriers of protocol and time collapse completely as Ibrahim moves to embrace his brother. The president of Burkina Faso, renowned for his dignified restraint, weeps openly as he holds his brother. Emmanuel, Michel, responds hesitantly at first, then with increasing certainty as dormant memory awakens. Ibrahim, he asks, the name emerging from some preserved corner of childhood memory against all odds. The boy's body remembers what his conscious mind had forgotten, the particular safety of this embrace. Outside the door, concerned security personnel prepare to intervene until the chief of staff stops them. Give them this moment, Adama instructs, comprehension dawning as he glimpses the scene through the doorway. The orphanage's small conference room becomes the setting for a reunion 15 years in the making. Sister Marguerite and Ibrahim's chief of staff witness in astonished silence as the president explains the situation. His usual measured speech gives way to emotion rarely displayed publicly, even among close advisors. This boy, Emmanuel, I believe he is my brother Michel, separated from our family 15 years ago. The orphanage director's hand flies to her mouth, eyes widening as she processes this extraordinary revelation. We were separated during the eastern border conflict, when rebels attacked our village without warning. We'll need to verify this officially, Adama begins, always thinking of protocols and potential complications. DNA testing, documentation review, proper legal procedures to establish identity beyond any doubt. Ibrahim raises a hand to pause these concerns. This moment belongs first to family before becoming state matter. Of course we will follow all proper procedures, he agrees, but today is about something more fundamental. Sister Marguerite nods in understanding, maternal instinct recognizing the priority of emotional truth. Emmanuel has always been different, she offers, more serious, more driven than most children his age. Emmanuel, Michel, sits in stunned silence, trying to reconcile fragments of memory with present reality. His world has shifted completely in the space of minutes, identity and future suddenly thrown into question. I remembered a brother, he says quietly, finally finding words for the overwhelming emotions he feels. In dreams sometimes, but I thought they were just stories I made up to feel less alone. He gestures toward Ibrahim's presidential insignia, a small, incredulous smile forming on his face. But I never imagined. He trails off, unable to articulate the enormous gap between memory and reality. DNA tests will later confirm what both already know with certainty in this small conference room. But it's the shared memories that emerge throughout their conversation that provide the most powerful verification. Michel recalls the song their mother sang during thunderstorm, a detail too specific to be fabricated. He describes the distinctive scar on their father's hand from a farming accident before either boy was born. He remembers the secret hiding place beneath the eastern floorboards where they kept childhood treasures, details no orphanage record could contain, that only someone who lived that life could possibly know. All these years I never stopped looking, Ibrahim confesses, presidential dignity giving way to plain truth. Every orphanage registry, every refugee database, I had people searching everywhere we could think of. The cruel irony that Michel had been here in a facility Ibrahim's own policies had helped improve and fund. A facility he had visited twice before during his presidency, perhaps passing his brother in crowded hallways. We even increased funding for this orphanage last year, he says, disbelief coloring his voice. You were here all along while I searched the entire region for any trace of what happened to you. As the initial shock begins to settle, practical questions arise about next steps and public implications. Michel has built a life here, formed friendships, excelled in his studies, roots that deserve respect. Any transition must acknowledge these realities while embracing the extraordinary circumstances at hand. Everything will change now, Michel says, uncertainty mixing with hope in his thoughtful expression. What happens to me? To Emmanuel? Now that Michel has been found? He asks, identity in flux. The wisdom in this question, its recognition of complexity, reminds Ibrahim strongly of their father. Ibrahim takes his brother's hand, aware that discovery brings complications alongside its undeniable joy. "We take this one day at a time," he says, with the measured wisdom that has guided his leadership. "You have built a life here that deserves respect. We don't erase Emmanuel to recover Michel." Sister Marguerite nods approval at this approach, her concern for her students' well-being evident. "But if you're willing, we can begin building a bridge between those two parts of yourself." Michel considers this, then nods slowly. "I would like to know the brother I've dreamed about." News of the president's extraordinary discovery spreads rapidly despite efforts to manage its release carefully. By morning, journalists gather outside the orphanage gates, while security personnel establish a protective cordon. Social media explodes with the story, citizens sharing their emotional reactions to this remarkable reunion. Inside, the other children react with a mixture of excitement and apprehension for their friend. Some worry they'll lose Emmanuel, while others are thrilled by their unexpected connection to the president. The orphanage suddenly finds itself at the center of national attention after years of quiet operation. The orphanage staff, initially overwhelmed by the implications, rise admirably to the unprecedented situation. "Emmanuel, Michel, has been one of our most dedicated students," Sister Marguerite tells Ibrahim privately. "He's shown remarkable resilience and kindness to younger children, often serving as mentor and mediator." She shares his academic records, impressive achievements that speak to determination beyond his years. "He carries leadership qualities that echo your own," she observes with the insight of years working with children. Ibrahim recognizes that his brother has grown into someone remarkable, shaped by different but parallel hardships. For Michel, the sudden attention creates a complex emotional landscape unlike anything he's experienced before. The dormitory that has been his home for 7 years suddenly feels temporary, his place there uncertain. "I don't know how to be the president's brother," he confesses during their second meeting the following day. "I only know how to be Emmanuel from St. Matthew's, the orphan who studied hard to make a future." His identity, carefully constructed from fragments after loss, now requires integration with recovered truth. Ibrahim recognizes the courage this admission requires, the vulnerability beneath the composed exterior. Ibrahim assures him that no immediate decisions need to be made, that reunification can proceed gradually. "You've built a life here that deserves respect," he tells Michel during a quiet moment between official meetings. "We have time now to build our relationship again while honoring who you've become as Emmanuel." This measured approach, prioritizing Michel's emotional well-being over political optics, impresses observers. The president arranges regular visits rather than immediate relocation, respecting existing bonds and routines. His willingness to adapt his schedule around his brother's needs reveals priorities beyond political convenience. The story resonates deeply across the nation, becoming a narrative of hope amid ongoing displacement challenges. Government officials who once viewed the president's persistent funding of missing persons initiatives as personal indulgence. Now they understand the deeper motivation behind these policies that have reunited thousands of families. Opposition politicians who plan to challenge these budget allocations quietly withdraw their objections. Ibrahim's private pain, now public triumph, transforms from potential political weakness to profound strength. His human vulnerability makes him more relatable to citizens who see their own family struggles reflected. Within days, applications to foster and adopt orphaned children increase dramatically across the country. The nation embraces the spirit of reunion and possibility that the president's story has inspired. Ibrahim announces expanded support for family reunification programs, transforming personal joy into policy. International organizations reach out with offers to enhance Burkina Faso's missing persons database systems. What began as one family's extraordinary reunion expands into national momentum, addressing similar separations. Every child deserves what Michel and I received, Ibrahim states in a brief but powerful address to the nation. 1 month after their extraordinary reunion, Ibrahim and Michel sit together on the presidential residence veranda. The evening light casts long shadows across manicured gardens, a peaceful moment between state obligations. Sometimes I still feel like I'm dreaming, Michel admits, looking out over surroundings once unimaginable. Yesterday, Sister Marguerite asked if I remembered to finish my mathematics homework before coming here. Ibrahim laughs, appreciating this glimpse of normal adolescence persisting alongside extraordinary circumstances. "And did you?" he asks, enjoying this simple brotherly exchange after 15 years of absence. Ibrahim has approached this reunion with characteristic thoughtfulness, balancing multiple complex considerations. He ensures Michel receives counseling support through the transition while respecting his independence. The brothers spend weekends together while Michel continues his education at St. Matthew's during weekdays. This arrangement maintains stability while allowing their relationship to develop at a natural pace. "Finding you doesn't erase who you've become," Ibrahim tells him during one of their evening conversations. "It adds to it. Emmanuel and Michel together creating someone neither could have been alone." The brothers' story has transcended national boundaries, becoming a powerful symbol of persistence and hope. International organizations cite the case when advocating for improved missing persons systems across borders. Funding increases for family reunification programs throughout West Africa follow this high-profile success. Other nations begin implementing database systems modeled after those Ibrahim championed before discovery. What began as one man's private search has evolved into regional policy, benefiting countless separated families. Sometimes personal pain, when transformed, creates the most powerful public good, a UN representative observes. Michel has chosen to continue his education before making any decisions about his future official role. "I want to earn my place," he insists with determination that reminds Ibrahim so much of their father. This measured approach has earned respect from citizens who might otherwise have been skeptical. He divides his time between the presidential residence and orphanage, bridging his separate worlds. His teachers note his unchanged dedication to studies despite dramatically altered circumstances. True character remains consistent regardless of changing fortune, Sister Marguerite tells reporters. As evening deepens, the two brothers look through old family photographs Ibrahim has preserved for years. They fill 15 years of absence with stories, building bridges between past and present with each exchange. Michel shares orphanage experiences, while Ibrahim recounts his journey from student to soldier to president. "We are incredibly fortunate," Ibrahim acknowledges, perspective deepened by their miraculous reunion. "So many others are still searching, still hoping for the moment we experienced in that small office. In that quiet moment, both silently commit to transforming their miracle into momentum for others still waiting."